worse than the other one was.
Oh, wow.
More lemony, huh?
Yeah, it went through, back when they had voltage regulators, it went through 14 voltage regulators in a year.
Hey,
Oh,
Jack.
wow.
And it lost its brakes a couple times on us.
Hello.
Oh, my goodness.
Mr. T.
He had to ditch it in the center lane of
Hey, dog.
75.
75.
Oh, my goodness.
Hey,
Think Fiat just bought Dodge Chrysler pickup trucks and Jeep.
If somebody bought, you know who bought Fiat and Chrysler and all those guys, it was the company that owns Peugeot.
Owns what?
Is bad.
Peugeot?
Peugeot and Citroen, the French company bought them.
Oh, interesting.
They're still going to be a piece of garbage.
A friend of mine, he bought a Peugeot that self-leveled itself, and he lived on Dixmuth Avenue. We used to park it on Dixmuth and watch the car try to level itself.
Dixmuth's
Oh,
about
my
a
gosh.
40-degree hill, right?
Yeah,
That's before you get to Good Sam, then it goes up to a 60-degree.
yeah. He lived in his apartments on the left going up, and we'd park it and it would try to level itself. It was great.
Oh, that's funny.
That is funny.
We used to,
Oh,
when
my
I
goodness.
traveled in Greece, we had a guy, a taxi service that had a Citron, and boy, we had a ball with that guy.
hi, Graham Wilder or Wilder. How you doing, Graham?
Good. Yeah, good. I'm doing good.
Good.
Graham.
Yeah.
Hi,
I
Jack
need,
and Tom.
Ken Johnson, is your audio on?
Let me see. I'm going to turn mine off.
See if you put it on that, it might help. I don't know.
I don't see Ken Johnson on. Is he on?
He was, yeah. Oh,
Bill, are you kind of afraid you're going to get a disease or something?
Hey, from you, yeah.
No,
Hey, I'm covered it up. I got both my shots.
I have a case of bad breath.
And so you're not sharing it, right? You're holding it all off by yourself?
Well, to me, my breath smells good, but everyone else has a problem.
Man, you're
Each-
an awesome dude.
Each dog smells his own, right?
hey, Alan Hale.
Hi, Brent.
We're stocking more fish tomorrow in
No, he's
New Day
sharing.
Ranch Lake.
He's spreading it around the room.
Bunch of minnows.
Oh, well, that's feed fish. Yeah.
Yeah, feed fish.
Great.
Well, if you want to bring a fly rod, we're going to see how big the bluegill and the bass have gotten too.
For that, you need a 10-car, what the heck's it called? Suwiki?
You
The
don't
one
need
that only
anything.
fishes
Use
for
a damn
minnows?
fly rod.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where'd they stock to?
Ask Randy. He can tell you.
Super Jack.
Hey,
Hi, Jack.
hi. Where did you say they stocked, Tim?
Tomorrow we're stocking more minnows in New Day Ranch Lake for bait fish.
Oh, sweet. That's
And,
cool.
Wayne and I are going to take some fly rods and just see how big the bass and the bluegill have gotten.
About what time?
And anybody else who wants to come is welcome. We're going to get out there about 2, and Jones Fish Hatchery is going to get there between 2:15 and 4:15.
Where are you going to meet up at the barn, or is there a place to meet?
At the lake, probably. Right?
Well, we'll just meet right there. There's, you come in the gate and you just go straight and there's visitors parking. That's where we'll meet.
Well, I go by there a lot, but I never see a gate. I see a barn and some
Well,
fence.
you have to come back their driveway quite a bit. And then
Okay, help me out here. There's a driveway. Where's the driveway?
Oh, right there, right about there.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty impressive when I pull up in front of that barn and go right about here.
100 times.
No, there's a big sign, Ron, you can't miss it.
Apparently, I've been missing it for 2 years because I drive past it a lot. Never see a sign.
Yeah, there's a big sign right there at the the head of the driveway.
You might be turned this
Okay, in relation to the barn, where's the driveway?
Well, there's a lot of barns.
There's one that's got a great big American flag on the side of it.
Oh, okay. So if you're coming toward that barn, then it's before you get to that barn. It's before you get to the flashing light.
Yeah.
Okay, I know right where that flashing light is because I run it all the time.
You're the one.
It's just for caution. Yeah.
All right,
God.
so
Oh, gosh.
how many do we have on? I think may as well go ahead and get started.
30.
Yeah, we got 30 right now.
That's pretty good.
Okay,
There'll be more.
We'll go ahead and
Hey,
get-
Joe Cruz.
Hello.
Yeah.
all right, we'll go ahead and get started. Tim, can you take it away as far as putting the flag up for us, please?
I'm gonna do it right now.
Thank you.
Didn't wanna
Randy,
do that.
yeah, never mind. We don't,
All right,
we should
All right.
all not be muted, so.
correct. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the
to the
flag
flag of the United
United
States
States
of America
of America.
and to the
To the
republic
republic
for which
which
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
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 nation,
nation,
under
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 God,
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 indivisible,
indivisible, with
with
liberty and justice
for
for
all.
all.
We'll do a moment of silence. All right. So we'll start with, I guess, Tim, you want to start with the spring raffle summary? Can
I
you-
would be very happy to.
Okay.
We, obviously with COVID, we were in a real pickle with regard to fundraising. We just didn't do any for about a year. And as long as I've been a member of the club, we've just never been in that situation. And we're not the only organization, obviously. But so a bunch of people worked out a system, and we had to comply with the state of Kentucky regulations for nonprofit organizations. And Bill Renner can tell you that there are 47 pages, literally, of regulations. We met them all, and so we ran the raffle for 2 months. Now, most time, special raffles are run for 5 months or 6 months. And we go to shows. We go to the Buff show, we go to Derby City show, we go to one in Indiana. So we're all over the place, working our tails off. And so this year, we ran it for 2 months, and we ran it online. And I'm going to tell you, it's one of the most successful raffles we've ever had. We netted over $3,000 on this raffle. It's about the same that we have done in the past for special raffles that we usually run for 5 or 6 months and spend a lot of time running around town selling tickets. So I know I'm speaking for everybody who worked on this system, that thanks to the club and some people that are not members of the club, other clubs, for supporting this raffle and making it one of the most successful raffles we've ever had in the history of Northern Kentucky Fly Fishers. If anybody would like to add anything, anybody who worked on it, please do. But thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell everybody thanks for all the hard work that they've put into to try to get everything ironed out, because it's been very time consuming and lots of man hours have been dedicated to making this happen. So we appreciate everybody for doing that. Secondly, I wanted to just make a few little announcements in case anybody was wondering about the where the raffle's being held. The drawing is going to be at Sportsman's Warehouse today. Bill and Randy are over there and they'll be doing the drawing here in just a few minutes. So I just wanted to let everybody know that that's where the raffle's being drawn at. So they can kind of take a look at it. Other things, we also have, we're planning an outdoor meeting in September. As long as we're following all the CDC guidelines and they'll allow us to do it. But hopefully it's going to happen. And if that does happen, it looks like we're going to probably be at the big shelter at AJ Jolly Park in September. Bill Renner has secured the deposit for that space so that we can potentially have it. So hopefully following all the CDC guidelines that that'll happen. We're fingers crossed that will definitely happen. So we're all looking forward to that. We're also looking for some input, if anybody has any input on venues that we could possibly look at for our banquet. We're just kind of throwing around some ideas. And so if anybody's got any ideas of a place that might be a good place, maybe some place that will have shelter, but we could do inside and outside, something like that. Just let somebody know and to let us know if that's going to be, something that we can look into, because we're, banquet's coming right around the corner. It's not far away. So we really need to start focusing on getting that. And hopefully we'll be, we're all looking forward to actually having a banquet this year. So next thing I have on my list is Jack. Jack wanted to make a few announcements, right? Jack, are you around? Okay,
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah. I'm going to share my screen real quick here.
Okay.
Everybody see that? So
Yep.
we have some upcoming trips. In June 4th, which is a Friday, through the 7th, which is a Monday. We got some folks going down to Caney Fork, where Susan Thrasher's place is, in Lancaster, Tennessee. Right now we have myself, Carrie and Rich Premick, Bruce Lane, and Mike Arnold signed up, and there's a few others interested. This maxes out at about 10 people. So if you are interested in this trip, give me a shout, sign up for it and give me a shout. I'm showing the costs here right now. So it's, if you do a float day with her, it's $400, a full day, $325, a half day. You don't have to float with her. You can float yourself if you take a kayak or take one of her kayaks out. It's $75 a night for lodging. And that's at a bed and breakfast. And there's a couple of spots, but I think those might be getting taken in her streamliner there at her place. And then if you want, you can do a $40 casting time with her. That's like at least a half hour. It might be an hour. I can't remember how long that is, but that's like personal casting instruction with Susan. It's a really good time spent and money spent.
It's definitely worth it.
Jack?
Yes.
The 75 includes meals.
Yes, 75 does include breakfast and dinner and
What's your name again?
meals. Yes, thank you, Mike.
And the prices are for two people, for the float. So
yeah, so that's $400 for two people. Tim's right.
What do you go, Jack?
$375 for half day. Same thing, two people. I'm looking for a person to float a full day with on Sunday. The Premix have Saturday. So that leaves Friday and Monday as well. So if you want to do a float with her. So I'm looking to do a full day Sunday with somebody. Anyway, just real quick, I want to hit on the rest of the trips that are out there, because there's a nice one coming up that I'd like to go to. But if you go to our fishing trips page, you can see there's Corinth Lake coming up. Here's the one I want to go to, the Little Miami River Fishing Day trip to Yellow Springs.
Yes.
I'd really like, I've never been there. I assume that's smallmouth fishing and as well as panfish.
It's
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah.
But
It's kind of through John Bryant State Park is there, and that's beautiful water in the park. And just outside the park, the Little Miami fishes very, very well.
yeah, so some really good day trips coming up, as well as that Caney Fork trip there in early June. So check them out. There's some really good stuff happening. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you very much.
Maybe I'll
Okay.
kill my screen here.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any comments or any announcements to make? I do have one other one. I wanted to congratulate Brent Miller for the award that he got from Project Healing Waters.
Here, here.
I don't know if everybody saw it, but it was assuming, I can't remember. It's a leadership one. And I seen it on Facebook and I was like, oh my gosh, that's our Brent. There he goes, winning some awards. Can't beat that. So I just wanted to congratulate him on that.
He truly earned that award. He ran that show for 6 years and did an outstanding job.
Yeah.
He did. I agree with that.
Thank you, Sheila. I was involved with Project Healing Waters for 9 years. I was the leader for 6. And I told there was a little award ceremony last night, and I told them all, I didn't do this alone. I did this with all the volunteers in our program, from Northern Kentucky Fly Fishers and Buckeye United Fly Fishers. It was the team effort, and the award was the Phil Johnson Award for leadership. And and now that I'm kind of semi-retired, I think it was really quite an honor. It was really humbling too. But I'm not done with Project Healing Waters. I'm just not leading it anymore. So I'm not going away. I'll still be around. So.
All right.
Good.
Well, good to know. Good to know. Well, once again, congratulations again. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Bill and Randy. We're going to be doing the drawing in about 2 minutes, right? I think we're supposed to be doing it at 7:15. So I'll turn it over to Bill and Randy. Take it away, guys.
Okay. Okay, Randy, are we on screen? Hope
Make
so.
it big.
Can someone confirm if we're on screen?
No, well,
No.
just small. You gotta share your screen.
Not working? Okay, hang on. We've got a technical issue right here. If
You've got a minute to fix it.
I was trying to talk as long as I could to kind of get you to that point.
you did a good job.
I was trying.
Oh, look at that.
No pressure though.
No, none whatsoever.
Are they
Randy,
seeing it on
you also have the controls for muting everyone.
You might have to.
Although everybody can do that for themselves as well.
Yeah. All right. I don't know what that picture is.
Well, can anyone see our feed from Sportsman at all?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we see the where the tickets are.
And the attractive lady.
Can
Yep.
you see me?
Yes.
No, yeah, no,
Holding
too
the
bad. Yeah, we
microphone.
can.
We see your chin.
Bad picture, right? Okay.
We see your chin.
Okay. Well, Randy,
Give him one more
so as they did say, we are at the Sportsman Warehouse. They were very nice to let us use their fireplace and their little meeting area here.
Now it's gone.
And
Everybody,
so we are,
Randy, can you mute everybody?
just a minute. He's a little busy.
Okay.
This may be the only way we're going to be able to broadcast, but give us another second or two.
Okay, we can see you now.
Oh, good.
Well, we could, yeah.
It'll work, right? Okay. Well, like I was saying, warehouse was so nice to let us use their facility here. I got a nice background. Brooklyn, one of their employees here, is going to assist us in the drawing. She will actually draw the winning ticket. As Tim said, man, we just had a great raffle. I'm so pleased with all the efforts that the entire team made and the response from the club and outside club members. So what I'm going to do right now, Brooklyn, is I'm going to start turning this, and then at your leisure, but let's not take too long. Tell me to stop whenever you want me to stop, and we'll open this up, and I want you to pull out one winning ticket, okay? Okay, here goes. Okay, I have stopped. Here is the door, and if you will pick out a winning ticket, please. Okay, thank you, Brooklyn. And if you would read the number, please. Or actually, good, show them the number.
Look,
Okay. And Brooklyn, why don't you go ahead and read the number to them? We want to hear your
Can't
voice.
see it.
yeah, we can't see it. It's too blurry.
217-2270.
I got it.
I will repeat that. 270. So we now are comparing that to our list of purchasers who each have an individual ticket ID number, and we will also verify that because I actually have a printout of those numbers. So
Nice try, Kilmer.
That it? Brooklyn, would you announce the winner of 270?
Michael J. Arnold.
So Mike Arnold has won the spring raffle. Oh no!
Recount.
No way.
No.
Oh gosh!
It's
Now well, we have
It's a
to admit that Mike was one of our largest ticket purchasers, but you only have to have one winning ticket. So congratulations, Mike. I was going to actually call the winner of this event, but since you're on the line, I don't have to do that. So Brooklyn, thank you so much. Thanks again to Sportsman Warehouse, and we're going to sign off and thank everyone again for their support.
Randy, you've got to give me control.
Thank you, Randy and Bill.
Hey, Mike.
You're very welcome.
I can carry bags really well. just saying, Mike.
Wow. Fantastic, man.
Congratulations, Mike.
There you go, Mike.
All right, good deal. All right, so my next question is our speaker on?
Randy.
Valerie?
Or just say back up and put the list of all the tickets in with all the tickets.
Valerie, are you on?
Okay.
Hey, Randy, you've got to give me back control.
I made you the host, Tim. I made you the host already.
I don't see that. Okay. Well, I trust your
radiation will start for a month, so that'll be 2.
All right. So now we're looking for Valerie. Let's see. Let me see if she's on.
Mute yourself, Randy.
I could not find her on the participants list.
All right. Tim, you want to try calling her?
Yeah.
Well, it would stink if our speaker don't show up. All right.
We don't give a time difference, do we, with her? Different time zone?
We don't want to filibuster with Ron Kilmer, do we?
I know, not at all.
Even
Not at
though
all.
he's an independent voter,
Oh.
You're an independent voter, huh?
I vote as I feel necessary.
Okay.
As often as I can get the ballots.
Which boat do you use when you go boating?
Well, I vote with all the votes that are sent to me.
Mike and
Oh, my
I
goodness.
could probably show some nice big fish we caught last weekend. So, but
Yeah.
All I could say is
Well, do that.
my largest steelhead is 35.6 inches.
You're fibbing.
No, I'm not. It's on a picture. And the fishing fool will verify it. He was there.
Was that 100 years ago, though? Does that count?
Well, I was using a bamboo rod to silk line, but who cares?
Oh, well, you know.
A
I guess a
length of
catch is a
fish.
catch, right?
A catch is a catch.
That's right.
And I was still able to wade the waters back then.
Well,
Who caught the most fish?
Hey, Joe.
Hey,
How are you?
good.
Good to see you, man.
You too.
all right. So we have a couple people on here that I've not seen before. Okay. Let's see here. Does anybody have any comments about anything? Has anybody been out fishing?
Did you see where they caught a 6.3 pound red ear sunfish at Lake Havasu 2 days ago?
Yeah, I saw that. Wasn't
I
it
saw
full
that.
of- It was full of lead weight.
That's where, that's right where we used to go out with the RV in winter. So it's real close to that area on the California side.
Wow.
Didn't they also have a bluegill of record about
Yeah.
4 years ago?
Yeah, they had a 5 pound something bluegill. They catch them like that. I mean, they catch 4 pounders in there all the time. It's really deep by Parker Dam. It's almost 300 feet deep there at the bottom. It's big.
300 feet. That's no problem for Arnold. He's got that much fly line.
But I just keep adding sink tips to mine, and you know,
If I tie them all together, Ron.
Yeah.
I watched Mike Arnold false fly until he literally cracked a boulder on the Nantahala River. He kept slamming his fly into it so hard the boulder chipped away.
All rainy day, it breaks the skin.
So, Tim, what's the verdict on Valerie?
Well, I called her cell phone and it's busy. And I texted her and I sent her an email. I don't have her home number.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
All right. Well,
But you can't see Mom this weekend anyway. We called over. Called over.
who's Donald? Who's Donald's iPad? Who is that? No answer?
No, that's Don Schrantz, I think.
Oh, okay. That would make sense. Well, I'm looking to see who's that. Well, I'm sorry, guys, that she's not on yet. Hopefully she'll get on in a minute.
Give her a minute.
Yeah. Who knows? She might be having computer issues.
Sheila?
Nobody would ever have computer issues.
No, never.
Yeah.
Never. Never.
daggone programmers.
I'm telling you. I had my
Have
I'm
you
so
all
tired
heard
of them
about
programmers.
have you heard about the sturgeon that they think is 100 years old? They caught up in the Detroit River.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
No.
a good one. That's pretty neat. That was pasted on Facebook, and the guy who caught it's laying next to it. Amazing fish.
What? I haven't seen that.
Well, I would send it to you, but I'm in Facebook jail once again.
You stay in Facebook jail, don't you?
Well, every other month.
Oh my God.
I get out, I go back in.
I have never been in Facebook jail.
Don't make a
Ever.
comment about that Kerry fellow that did that video of him flying up the river in Vietnam and acting like he was piloting one of those little boats. And back when I was taking ROTC, we laughed about that, and they told us he would never pilot a craft like that.
I don't know. I was over there about that time, and some of the guys on our ship knew a couple of the Brownwater Navy that were on his crew, and they didn't think much of the guy. He would stage these events the next day. So he was always, they always called him tail end because he was last to show up.
Yeah. But he's a hero.
Well, no, he threw those back. Yeah, you can tell I don't like him because of that.
No. Oh, come on. That's hard to believe.
But I keep my
Oh, my
opinions
goodness.
to myself, so yeah.
Does anybody out there, the white band will be East Fork Whitewater how River? Does anybody know how long they spawn for?
Is it like a month and a half?
I don't.
Am I wrong?
I'm trying to figure that out.
Might have another week or two, Joe.
Yeah. Last year it was over right after Mother's Day.
Yeah.
We're supposed to get 3+ inches of rain on Sunday here. So if we
Right.
get that,
Drown them.
Yeah,
If we
do they spawn based on daytime amount of light or based on temperature? Do you know?
Water
don't-
temp.
don't know. I know they're up there now. We've caught a few up there.
Because the water temps are going to go down. They said that the high for this week is going to be 61 for the coming 10 days. So it's going to be chilly. Right now they're having a record low in the United Kingdom.
Hi, Mr. Ellis.
Hey Sheila, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, doing okay.
Good. Good to hear. All right, let's see.
Hey, congratulations, Mike. You're gonna have a good trip down there. As you know, you fished it many times.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Ron Ellis. Thank you so much, Ron Ellis.
He's gonna rub it in.
Oh, no, I love it. Fantastic.
Hey, Mike,
I
I'll
think
let
it's
you
great.
catch all the fish.
What's that?
I'll let you catch all the fish.
I catch all the fish anyhow.
Who are you gonna take on your trip with you, Mike?
Sounds like
I think what I'll do is I'll get the list of people who signed in for tonight's meeting, and I'll put everybody's name in a pot and I'll draw it. And in fact, if somebody else will do that, I'll take your word for whoever you pull.
I just did it.
I just pulled my name, Mike.
Can't pull your own name.
It sounds like we could raffle that off.
Yeah. No, hey, wait a minute. If you raffle it, you got to get in with all this business. Where's the sign that auction it right now? And the money goes to NKFF.
Right.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Do it. Come on, we're waiting for something. Tim, be the auctioneer. Auction off the other half of my trip.
If I get to ride down with Mike,
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
I'll put in $20.
You put in $20 to get to go.
Oh, if he drives me down there, I'll go with him for $20.
It'll cost you $200 to get in my car, Ron.
I should buy your car for 200.
Well, while we're hanging out, why don't I do this? I'm going to go ahead and select the door prize winners for tonight. So let me share
Oh, that's a good idea.
my screen. Here it is. Can everyone see that? Randomize?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to randomize. Boom. All right, the three winners are Jack Randall, Don Schrantz, and Greg Dickman.
Hey,
Okay.
congratulations,
Let me see if I
guys.
place
All right.
Now, let me also say this. We are behind on getting door prizes out to everybody. So I want to let you know that I have all of the prizes now at my house. And so if you
There's
There's Valerie.
if
Hey,
you
Valerie.
think, okay, if you think that you have door prizes that I owe you, please email me or call me, and we'll make arrangements to get them to you. Okay, and that includes tonight's winners.
Share my screen.
And you basically, we've got a lot of choices that you can pick from. So if possible, it might be best to come by and you can select.
Valerie's on.
Oh, good.
I
Hi,
picked
Valerie.
the second person on Mike's trip.
You want to just hang firm with me for a minute?
Yeah.
Hi, Valerie.
Hi, Valerie.
Hello, hi. I'm sorry I'm late getting
Hello.
on.
Hi,
I
Valerie.
simply lost track of the time. My sincere apologies to you, to everyone.
Well, we were just hanging out, hoping you'd get on soon.
Well, I'm a little embarrassed to say, my dear friend has a birthday tomorrow and I have a cake in the oven. So I had to abscond my daughter to take care of that while I was trying to juggle some other things. So again, my apologies for being late.
Happy birthday to your friend.
Oh, no problem. No
All
problem.
right.
I like
right.
the background too. Jack, that's
Well,
a good
Yeah.
background.
Thank
Jack's
you.
got a background. All right. Well, Valerie, if you want to, we'll go ahead and let Tim, you want to go ahead and announce her, and then
Sure.
we'll let her take over.
Well, Valerie is a good friend, actually, of Northern Kentucky fly fishers. She spoke to us the year before last, and in many people's opinion, was one of the best speakers we've ever had in history. And I'm not just blowing smoke. She has now published the second edition of Fly Fishing Kentucky and has added some additional streams, including Gunpowder Creek, and has some very nice words to say about Northern Kentucky in that part. And I can tell you that I have used the book to plan trips. Just last year, Wayne Noakes and I planned a trip based upon the southwestern corridor, and we fished a couple of streams down there that were some of the best, and they're spring fed and stocked all year long, and it was just an absolute blast. And the whole thing was planned by the book. And I mean, the directions were right on the money. We didn't even have to use GPS. It was so good. So, and Valerie has very generously offered the second edition to the club for $16, and it will be signed personally by Valerie to you. And it normally runs about $20. So it's a really nice deal. So I want to introduce our friend, Valerie Askren, and thank her very much for joining us tonight. So Valerie, you know how to share your screen, etc.
I believe so. I have my tech support, who is my 16-year-old son, as my backup.
There you go.
Usually,
Nothing wrong with that.
no, it's not. Usually I'm hosting and I'm not actually presenting on a Zoom call. So I just wanted to have, again, my tech support here. But before I jump into it, I really want to thank Northern Kentucky Fly Fishers for inviting me again. I really appreciate it. And Tim has just been a wonderful conduit between our clubs with the Bluegrass Trout Unlimited Club. And he spoke with our group about Gunpowder Creek. And they were so impressed. And yeah, it was really a motivator. You know, we're a much smaller club. We don't have as many volunteers. We don't have as deep of pockets. But what you have done up there is just truly wonderful. And it's really exciting to see, you know, in the next 5 or 10 years where that creek is going to go. So I'm really impressed with the energy and the enthusiasm, you know, of your club. Tim originally had asked me to speak earlier in the spring. So I had it in my head that I was going to be talking about spring fly fishing in Kentucky. But as Tim said, I kept the word spring in the title, but I'm going with spring-fed creeks here in Kentucky.
Right.
So that's my twist. So if anyone doesn't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this and get started if everybody's good with that.
If
Go ahead and get
everyone
started.
would mute themselves, I appreciate it.
Okay, well, here we go. Tim, are you going to, is there a chat room where people can ask questions as I go, or do you want to save questions for the end, or it doesn't matter to me?
There is a chat room, and I would encourage people, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, there is a chat room, and I would encourage people to use that for questions. But also, you can also feel free to unmute yourself and just ask the question at that point. But then then mute yourself again.
Yeah, I'm good with either one.
Okay.
Okay, well, here goes. Do I need to open system preferences? What do you say?
You cancel. Yes, you do.
I want to go to Keynote. Nope, I don't want that.
No, go back to your Keynote.
Back to Keynote.
You have to do this. Do that. Click the checkbox.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now try again.
Should be unclick. Okay. So try again to share screen.
Yeah. So now they can do that.
All right, looks like we got it.
Got it? Okay. So my son basically knew what he was doing, but I wasn't listening to him. So I think I've got it. How do I turn myself off? Can I go?
This one here.
Here?
There.
Okay. So on the screen, can you just see slide 1? Is that all you're looking at?
No.
We see
no,
slide
we're
1
seeing-
and 2.
Yeah, we're seeing the current slide and the next slide, 2 of 27.
Okay,
So you'll just have to go to the, if it's PowerPoint, you'll just, yeah, there you go.
Okay, how's that look?
That's perfect.
Okay, I use Keynote on a Mac, so it's a little bit different. Okay, I think I'm good. Okay.
That's to stop your share. So.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about spring-fed creeks for Kentucky fishing. Basically, if you're going to fish here in Kentucky during the summer months, you really only have 2 choices. We do have some deep water lakes that you can go to, but that's not really fly fishing. So generally we look at either tailwaters or spring-fed creeks. And we've got some really great tailwaters. We've got Harrington is a really good one. The Licking River that comes out of Cave Run Lake is a really good one. Of course, we've got the Cumberland. But what I thought I'd focus more on is spring-fed creeks, because Kentucky has a really interesting karst topography, which has really created this perfect environment for cold, uniform temperatured water coming out of the ground, which is just perfect for a lot of our trout, both for stocking as well as for holdovers. So as most of you probably know, Kentucky has quite a bit of limestone, or as in other places they might call it dolomite or gypsum. And basically combined with acidic runoff, that limestone dissolves and it creates a lot of sinkholes, caves, and springs. And I thought it was really interesting to look at this map here in Kentucky, and the red spots represent those parts of the state where we have the most karst activity. So that's where we're going to find also the most spring-fed creeks. So ironically, we have what's called the inner bluegrass, which is this big red spot right here. And we do have some spring-fed creeks here, but it's mostly sinkholes. So we don't really have any good fishing creeks here in the inner bluegrass particularly. But if you look down along the Pottsville Escarpment, which basically is this section right here that divides, whoops, I guess I hit that a little too hard, that divides the Daniel Boone National Forest from eastern Kentucky. Down here in the southern part of the Pottsville Escarpment, we have a lot of spring-fed creeks. And then the other huge area in the state is what's called the Mississippian Escarpment, which is this big red ring right here. And this big red ring going all the way from Louisville down to southwestern Kentucky, all the way over to the land between the lakes, is where we have some of these great spring-fed creeks that Tim was talking about earlier. So these are some of the areas that I'm going to focus on, both the southwestern part as well as the south central part of the state. Well, as you know, we really don't have.
Valerie, I just had to mute everyone, including you. So you're going to have to unmute yourself to continue speaking. And all you need to do is take your cursor down to the bottom, and there should be a place to unmute yourself. Or you can call your son.
Okay,
yeah,
how's that?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so as most of you know, we do not have any significant natural reproduction in the state. We do have some holdovers, and we are getting a little bit of natural reproduction here and there, but almost all of our fishing here in Kentucky is relied upon stocking. You might recognize this picture of Tom Schroet over on the right-hand side of your screen. Tom and I have done many backpacking trip where we packed fish in, particularly to the Red River Gorge area. And we very carefully got the fish from Fish and Wildlife. They pump air in the plastic bags. We would backpack the fish in. We would slowly introduce them to the stream to minimize the amount of shock. Well, then if you look at the pictures down the center, that's how Fish and Wildlife does it when they don't come in and backpack the fish in. They just shoot them into the creek. So that's basically the state of the stalkers that we're going after. And the first day or two after those stalkers get dumped into the creek, they're not really hungry, they're confused, they're a little bit stressed. And so fishing really isn't all that great. And it takes a day or two without being force-fed their fish feed when they really start to pick up and start to get a little bit hungry. So usually 36, 48 hours after the stalking is when fishing really starts to pick up.
Hey, Valerie,
Yes.
can I interject?
Absolutely.
In the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there's what's showing is a palette, a bunch of different colored pencils. and it's kind of interfering with the picture that is on the right side of the screen.
Okay. Well, aha.
Yeah, there. Perfect. Okay. Then you should be able to get rid of,
Is that
awesome. Yep.
Thank you for telling me that. Because I could not see that on my screen whatsoever. I had no idea that pop-up was there. Okay. All right. You're welcome. So going back to stalking, this is what was posted on Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife for Thursday, May 6th today. So as you can see, every week, they actually post Monday through Friday where they're going to be stalking. Usually brown trout stockings aren't announced, as well as brook trout, but I noticed here on Thursday, they did announce some brown trout stockings. And the reason I bring this up is that sometimes I forget to go back and look at the stocking page. And the reason it's important is, one, again, that lag time between when they stock and when fish get hungry again. Second, all of the locals know when the stocking truck shows up. And right now, the fishing pressure on our local creeks, including our spring-fed creeks, is so strong that I kind of joked with my husband. I almost think stocking has become somewhat of a food stamp program here in the rural parts of the state. People are not honoring the catch and release. They're not honoring the limits. They're going in and basically just harvesting these fish as fast as they can. And it's really become, I think, problematic and detrimental to the sports fisherman who is going in and trying to fish, I think, in a more environmentally sensitive or sustainable perspective. The other thing that's happened in the last couple of years is that the number of fish that are stocked in most of our streams falls almost every year. Whereas in the past, stockings had been relatively constant. Now Fish and Wildlife is taking fish away from our traditional fishing areas and literally feeding them into the FINS program, which is the Fishing in the Neighborhood program. So for example, here in Lexington, we have Jacobson Park. We have a very, very shallow, when I say shallow, I mean like 4 foot deep with 4 foot of muck, that the temperatures, I'm sure, are close to 80 in the heat of summertime. And they're stocking it with trout. Unless those fish are caught in the next, 36, 48 hours, they don't have the oxygen and they just succumb to those environmental conditions. So what's happened is, I think that fishing pressure between less stocking, more people fishing, more people watching for stocking trucks, and more fish going to the FINS program is making it increasingly difficult for us to have a good, successful day of fishing out on the water. Well, that said, what I've tried to do is pick a few of my favorite places to fish where I rarely walk away empty-handed. I do on occasion, and I'll talk about that. But for the most part, if you can plan your schedule and add some flexibility, these are some streams, if you're not familiar with them already, maybe you haven't been there for a while, you may want to go back and revisit. Unfortunately, driving from Cincinnati, I just looked at from Florence, from Northern Kentucky. All of these streams are about 3.5 hours away. If you go all the way over to Casey Creek, which is number 1 here on the map, it's actually about 3.5 hours away from Florence, as is number 3 Rock Creek. It's also about 3 hours and 15 minutes away from Florence. That makes for a really long day trip. You can do it, but if you're going to wade the stream, it's really going to it's really going to put some wear and tear, I think, on your fishing enjoyment. So one of the things I'm going to talk about too, when I talk about these streams, is where can you do a layover day? It's really easy to go to one of these regions. If you're going to fish one creek one day, you can easily fish another creek the next day, or one creek in the morning, one in the afternoon. So I've tried to lump them together and give you some ideas as to where you can make more of an outing of it rather than just an overnight day trip. So I'm going to start here in Western Kentucky and talk about these blue streams, and then I'm going to come back over and talk about these kind of lighter aqua blue streams. Well, first let's look at Casey Creek. I know some of you have fished this before, but since it's probably about the furthest location from those of you located in the greater Cincinnati area, probably a lot of you haven't made the trouble to go all the way down to Casey Creek. But Casey Creek is just a real jewel if you can get down there. It has really heavy stocking levels. You can see 8,000 rainbows are stocked each year. And also, it's important to note, it is stocked all through the hot summer months. So you've got June, July, August, September. So when other places are too hot to fish or the creeks have dried up, Casey Creek is a great place to go year round. They do have a catch and release season from October 1st to March 31st. Other than that, just usual limits persist with a daily limit of 8 per day. The creek itself is very wide. It's usually about 20 to 30 feet, sometimes 40 feet, and it's never really deep. This is some of the rich farmland of Western Kentucky where you've got a lot of corn and bean production. So you don't have a really steep gradient. So you have these really nice, big, long pools. The water itself isn't very deep, although you probably want to bring waders for a variety of different reasons, but it's a really easily accessible, wadable creek that I think you might want to consider. If you can look at the map on the far right-hand side, and I know this is a little bit hard to look at, but when you drive in from Hopkinsville, you come in this road right here, and the very first place you come to is the Stocking Bridge right here. And the picture on your left is actually looking downstream from the Stocking Bridge. There's a really nice parking area. That is where everybody that's local goes to fish. So as soon as the stocking truck rolls up, everybody's there in the next 24 hours and they're fishing. However, as most of you know, the streams in Kentucky all flow north, heading towards the Ohio River. So this is the upstream side. So if you drive just 2.5 miles to the downstream side, where you've got the confluence with the Little River, there's some wonderful parking right there along the shoulder. And then you can make a day of it. It says it's about 3.5 miles upstream, which makes for a very long day of fishing, but you can work your way upstream and reach some of these bigger, deeper pools that most of the locals don't go to. Again, because they're up here fishing right off of the Stocking Bridge. I will say that as you're going downstream, everything on the right-hand side or the eastern side of this creek is private property, and the farmland owner really doesn't like you up on his shoreline, so try to stay in the creek as possible. The farm owner here on the left or on the western side of the creek is very amenable to fishermen, doesn't mind if you get out on shore, but still be respectful. There.
Valerie?
Yes.
Is that right in Hopkinsville, or how far away? What's the distance there to Hopkins?
Good question. It is 20 minutes southeast of Hopkinsville.
Okay. My daughter lives in Clarksville. That's why I'm asking. Clarksville, Tennessee. And I'm like,
Oh, so maybe on your way to go visit her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. How much further is Clarksville from there? I really don't know.
It's just on the east side of Hopkinsville, so and a little bit south.
Okay.
Still,
Well,
still actually on base, really, they are all there.
well, yeah, if you're in the vicinity, you may as well throw a rod in the car and, you know, and yeah, enjoy the time visiting her.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, in terms of some just general recommendations on how to fish this creek, again, start at the bottom and work your way up. That's my favorite way to fish it. If you fish from the Stocking Bridge, make sure you go up maybe a quarter of a mile upstream from the Stocking Bridge, because there are some really nice deep pools. There is a trail that goes along the shoreline or just wade. Some of those pools easily get chest deep, but there's some really nice runs up there. But other than that, I usually just go, I usually start at the top at the Stocking Bridge and kind of fish that area for maybe 45 minutes or an hour, and then I just drive on down to the bottom and work my way upstream. Because the water is a little bit chilly, you may want to wear waders or at least some smart wools or something, you know, to keep your feet warm. It seems like the fish down there, I don't know why, they like the brighter colors, particularly the yellows and oranges. I don't know whether that's just the days that I have fished or what, but it's those two colors just seem to have been really lucky for me. In terms of nymphs, pretty standard prince, hare's ears, types of things that you would fish in other streams. In terms of dries, it's kind of catch and miss in terms of seeing much dry, I'm sorry, losing my train of thought here, activity on the water. But again, something like an Adams or an elk hair caddis, something like that seems to work. Usually casting about a 45-degree angle to the current and then just letting it drift or stripping it in slowly seems to work pretty well too. The picture that I've shown you is the same exact trench, which is about, maybe a quarter to a half a mile downstream from the Stocking Bridge. And you can see that that water in the summertime still stays that really beautiful blue color, which is an indication of being highly aerated from the spring-fed streams. Okay, the other area, or the other creek that I wanted to mention to you in the western part is Roundstone Creek. Roundstone Creek used to be one of the top premier creeks in western Kentucky.
Valerie, excuse me, somebody wanted to know if Casey Creek is floatable in a kayak.
Oh, that's a good question. You know, if you don't mind getting out, there are some riffles up at the top, like around the Stocking Bridge. But if you, particularly as you work your way downstream, the water definitely gets deeper, particularly before right here, before it dumps into the Little River. And right there at that confluence with the Little River is actually also a really good smallmouth fishing area. So you can see on this map, see how the creek widens right in there. It's definitely deep enough on the lower half to float, but obviously you're going to want to put in at the top. You know, I don't know if there, I'm tempted to say, yeah, I think you could, if you don't mind getting out now and then and pushing off from rocks. But I'd be interested if somebody does it to let me know how it went. Does that answer the question?
I think that's good enough for now.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to Roundstone Creek. Roundstone Creek is also in the Bowling Green area. It's about 20 miles south of Elizabethtown. Well, if you think about 20 miles south of Elizabethtown, you're only about an hour and 15 minutes away from the greater Louisville area. So there is a lot of pressure on this creek. And so I think a lot of people have kind of shied away from it in the last few years. It's kind of interesting how creeks kind of come and go in terms of popularity. But if you go to the upstream section, if I can get my cursor going here. Oops, well, that didn't work. Okay, somehow I've lost my cursor. If you look at the upstream access site, where they actually, where this picture is taken here on the right, most people do not walk in to the upstream access point because it's about a half a mile walk in. It's a VPA area. The local farmer, even though he lost VPA funding, he has continued to allow access to the stream there. And so if you go in at the top, it's like I never run into anybody there. I never see anybody fishing that area. Now I tend to go during the week because I've got that flexibility. If I went on the weekend, it might be different. But there's just never anybody there. Whereas if I go to the downstream access point at the Pretty Nature Preserve, there's a swimming hole there. A lot of locals go there. They do stocking there. A lot of local fishermen go there. So I tend to run into a lot more people down at that end. So if you do want to try Roundstone Creek and avoid the Louisville crowd, I would suggest going during the week and again, hitting that upstream access point. In terms of stocking, it does have some browns. Again, look at the months that it's stocked all through the summer, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The area at the top on the right-hand side is actually just below a big spring called Blue Hole. And again, it gives you that really nice, beautiful blue color. You do need to watch out in the heat of summer in that Blue Hole does start to run dry and it gets relatively shallow in the upstream section. And it's also a little bit hard to wade in the upstream section because of the steep banks and the sand you kind of sink into. So usually bank fishing at the top seems to work a little bit better, whereas the downstream access at Pretty Nature Preserve, it seems like you can wade that a whole lot easier. In terms of recommendations, pretty much nymphs under an indicator is what I've used here. And that seems to always work well. The little boy on the left is actually my son about 10 years ago, fishing just below Blue Hole. There's some really nice bank access up at the top. And it's really easy to cast. It's wide open. It really is a joy to fish. And again, you don't have people there. But if you want to wade, you're probably better, again, going down to the downstream access point. Well, the next creek I want to talk about is Trammel. I'm sure lots of you have fished Trammel before. Those of you that haven't, you definitely need to take a look at this creek. It also receives a lot of pressure, not only from the Louisville crowd, but also from the Bowling Green crowd. It's about 8 miles south of Bowling Green. So again, you're probably, an hour and a half from Louisville, something like that. So it does get a lot of fishing pressure, but it's a really long stream. You've got almost 4.5 miles of fishable water. And it's a really easy shuttle. It's only 9/10 of a mile from the stocking bridge there at the bottom of your stream at the upstream access to the downstream access. I fish a lot by myself. I just seem to have a more flexible schedule, just getting away at the last minute. And so what I'll do is I'll leave a bicycle at one end, drive down to the downstream access, work my way up, and then bike my shuttle. So if you don't bring 2 cars, keep that in mind. That's a pretty easy option. 9/10 of a mile, you could even walk that or run it if you wanted to. Heavy stocking levels, close to 9,000 rainbows, 600 browns, stocked all through the summer. Catch and release season, typical October 1st to March 31st. However, just recently, they have reduced the limit on Trammel Creek to 5 rainbows or 5 trout, including 1 brown that has to be at least 16 inches in length. So I wanted to make sure people were aware of that they have reduced that fishing limit. There's also a lot of overwintering of fish here at Trammel, which is really nice. You can pull out some really nice 16, 18-inch rainbows and some browns now and then, which is a real treat. The stocking is right, oh, my cursor's working again, is right here where Blankenship Road crosses the creek. So if you're looking at the pictures here on the left, this picture is looking upstream. This picture down here is looking downstream from the stocking bridge. If you look close at this picture, you can see some rocks that they have put in, and these are huge boulders that they have cut. I have no idea how much they weigh, but the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife has come in and they've used mitigation money to come in and build this structure. There's several of these places where they've restricted the flow in the creek, which has created some really nice eddies here on the left and the right. Really great place to get a good drift going. And then in 2010, they came in and reforested large parts of this bottomland down here. They came in with swamp oak, white oak, poplar, maple, some red twig dogwood, all different kinds of things. And somebody told me, and I tried to get confirmation of this, but I don't know whether it's urban myth or not, but to date, because they're still coming in and doing improvements to the stream, they have spent about $4 million of mitigation money on improving fishing conditions at Trammel. So that equates to about $1 million a mile that Fish and Wildlife has sunk into this creek. But it's a beautiful, beautiful creek to fish. You can start at the downstream side, work your way up. You can start at the top, work your way down. It's really wadeable. It's just a joy. Absolutely. It also has a pretty good reputation for a smallmouth, as a smallmouth stream too. So in terms of recommendations, the pictures that you see here are from the downstream bridge at Concordia Church. Again, you can see it's a relatively wide creek, about 30 to 40 foot, really easy to wade. But because it's relatively cool, if it's springtime, I wear waders. If it's later on in the summer, I just wear something like Chacos with smart wool shoes, and I seem to stay warm enough. Stay in the stream if possible, because it is private land on either side. If it's really getting hot, like, maybe late August, early September, the downstream, because it's relatively wider, it seems to heat up a little bit quicker. So sometimes I have better luck on the upstream side. There's just some deeper pools up there where they've built those sluices. And it seems like when it gets really hot in the summertime, that's where a lot of the bigger fish like to hang out. All right, then the last creek I wanted to talk about in Western Kentucky is Jennings Creek. This is a new creek that I added to the book. I wasn't gonna even talk about it. This was kind of a last minute addition. I have only fished this creek one time, and it is literally right in the middle of, not really downtown Bowling Green, but in kind of the industrial retail area of Bowling Green, right off of the bypass. But it has really heavy stocking levels, 7,000 rainbows, 500 browns. It's a really long stream, and they stock it all summer long. The reason I don't like it is that a lot of the drainage of Jennings Creek comes from parking lots within the downtown Bowling Green area. And it seems like, particularly after any kind of rain at all, that the water quickly becomes discolored. At times, I'm not real convinced on what water quality is like in Jennings Creek. It's also extremely difficult to wade. There's only one parking area, and that's at the Stocking Bridge. Sorry, I didn't include a map. And it's a pretty good parking area, and there is a trail that leads, I think it's on Creek Right as you're going downstream, and that trail goes for a long ways, and so you can bank fish off that trail. But it's a little bit difficult. It seems like I get hung up a lot. But if you're in Bowling Green and you're in that area anyway, you know, it's worth an hour or so of your time to go down and fish Jennings Creek. But I would not make it as a destination. I don't think I would plan on going there just to go down and fish Jennings Creek. So if you are going to drive all the way down from Cincinnati, again, keep in mind it's about a 3-hour drive from Florence. You've got Mammoth Cave National Park and Nolan State Park, where they have lots of camping, lodging, cabins, and so forth. Nolan also has a fairly decent tailwater. So that's another option if you like tailwater fishing. You can access the tailwater either from the shore, they kind of have a walkway along it, or you really need a boat is the best way to fish that tailwater. If you go over to Casey Creek, you can head over to Land Between the Lakes. It's probably only, I don't know, less than 45 minutes to Land Between the Lakes from Casey Creek. And of course, if you go to Bowling or stay in Bowling Green, you can go to this big sinkhole of all time, which is at the National Corvette Museum, which I have not been there since the sinkhole opened up. But a friend of mine who's a huge Corvette fan said that the demonstration exhibit area is actually very, very interesting, that they talk a lot about karst topography in Kentucky and sinkholes and how they're formed. And then they left all the Corvettes down in the sinkholes themselves. So they just kind of played it up and just made a huge exhibit of it. So it's just something kind of fun to do. If you're going to be driving that way, you may as well enjoy yourself. Well, to take a little bit of a break from talking about creeks and streams, I got on this wild tangent, went down a huge rabbit hole, and started thinking about strike indicators. So much of Kentucky is nymph fishing. And even though some of these streams, we do fish some terrestrials and we fish some dries, a lot of what we do is nymph fishing because most of the trout, what they feed on is underneath the water. So I started to think about all the different kind of indicators, and pardon me for this segue. I will get back to creeks, but I don't know, it's just kind of stuck on this spring about what type of strike indicators to use when. So you've got the traditional yarn, which natural wool yarn has a lot of floatant in it naturally. And then we have all these foam and some cork indicators. And then we've got the bubble rigs and the thingamabobbers. And now we've got all these sight lines, the sighters coming out. So it made me think, well, which of these strike indicators might be best for fishing some of these spring-fed Kentucky creeks? So I put together this spreadsheet, and you might be able to tell I'm kind of an academic at heart. And I was really just trying to wrap my head around what types of indicators are good under what types of conditions, and trying to think about some of the pros and cons of using these different strike indicators. And what I kind of came out with all of this is that if I've got a really lightweight fly and I've got really light water, then using something like the yarn, as long as I keep reapplying the floatant, the yarn actually works pretty good. But as soon as I get a heavier nymph or heavier water, Then I don't have as good of luck with the yarn, but I don't really like the foam. I've seen way too much foam just floating idly, going down the stream or washed up next to an eddy. So I've been trying to shy away from the foam the last several years. And my old favorite go-to has been the slotted styrofoam, the ones that look like little footballs. And I really like those because they're so adjustable. They're easy for me to see. They're great for all different sizes of nymphs and waters, but I really don't like the way they hit the water so hard. I don't have good enough technique. Maybe if I was a better caster, they wouldn't smack the water and scare the fish away. And I had the same trouble with the bubble rigs. So I think now I'm going to start really focusing more on using the ciders, still applying some floatant as needed. And now they have the multiple color cider lines. And so I think using those so I don't have to tie so many knots from my leader to my tippet. I think those cider lines are something that I want to experiment more with in the future. So in terms of just some of my musings of what I've been thinking about with strike indicators is one, I have to remind myself to try different colors. Depending upon the color of the water, some strike indicators I can see more easily than others. And I've also noticed when I fish with people like my husband, he sees different colors than what I see when we're both fishing the same water with the same strike indicator. And I find that really interesting. I've also discovered that if I use a white or any type of clear strike indicator, they blend into the bubble lines, which is really nice. And then it makes my strike indicator kind of incognito. But on the downside, I really can't see it as well. So I'm kind of torn on what recommendation to go with there. You also want to consider how easy they are to attach and what kind of depth you want to go for. General rule of thumb, always use the smallest and lightest indicator necessary. Because again, it helps from scaring the fish away, and it helps with that splash factor of it hitting the water too hard. Almost all of these, or about half of them, you still need to go in and reapply floatant. Even, again, that cider line, which always kind of surprises me. Another thing I need to continue to remind myself is to really use my strike indicators to evaluate any type of flow, whether I'm looking at a bubble line, a foam line, just any type of micro eddies that I can find in the stream itself. And if I only use my fly line to indicate water flow, it doesn't really give me a good idea as to where my leader and my tippet are going. So sometimes I'll notice when I'm drifting my line, if I don't have a strike indicator, I'm always looking at my colored fly line because it's what I can see. But that doesn't necessarily give me the same information as to where my fly is relative to the end of my tippet. Another question I always have is, how deep should I put my nymph underneath my indicator? So I've been looking at that a lot and playing around with it. The general rule of thumb is that you want your indicator about 1.5 times the depth of the water. So if you've got a 3-foot deep run, you usually put your indicator about 4.5 feet up from your fly. Well, the problem with that is if you have a really strong current, then your nymph is going to have kind of a flatter angle below the surface of the water. And so you can actually go a little bit higher or a little bit longer distance from your fly to your indicator. Whereas if the water is a little bit more slack and your nymph, particularly if it's a weighted nymph, is going to sink down to the bottom of your stream, you probably want the distance between your indicator and your nymph a little bit shorter. So kind of going back and forth on that. And then also if you have a really lightweight nymph, sometimes I go ahead and make the length between the indicator and the nymph a little bit longer, because the nymph doesn't necessarily want to just bounce along the bottom. It tends to want to float a little bit more anyway. Another hint you can use is to use a strike indicator with the dry fly, which a lot of times my mind just doesn't go there. I just don't think about that. But occasionally there are some situations where I'm in heavier water with a dry fly where a strike indicator can be valuable. And then if you've got really glassy or super clear water, then I try not to use any type of indicator at all, but I can actually use my dry fly almost as an indicator with my nymph set up as a dropper below it. So that's something else that you might want to keep in mind. So thank you for letting me go down that rabbit hole. Again, I've just kind of gotten obsessed with strike indicators this spring. So let's get back to fishing. I want to talk about 3 different streams in southern Kentucky. All of them spring fed, all of them that I like for kind of wildly different reasons. Bark Camp Creek, Cane Creek, and Rock Creek. Again, all about 3 hours south of the greater Cincinnati area. When I first started fishing Bark Camp Creek, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, even though there was an official trail right next to the creek, in most places you couldn't see it. Well, now it's like 4 foot wide and ground down hard. It has really amazed me how popular Bark Camp Creek has become, not just amongst fishermen, but amongst day hikers. It used to be, again, you could go down there and never see a person. What's that, Randy? Is Randy commenting? Okay, I'll go on.
Sorry, I don't know how I unmuted myself. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No problem at all. No problem. But I still really like Bark Camp Creek because it is such a beautiful, beautiful area. The picture on the right is the view from the Stocking Bridge. One of the reasons why I want to kept this picture in here, Bark Camp Creek fishes really well in the spring, really well in the summer. In the late fall, it's a little bit more difficult because every cast seems to hit exactly on one of these leaves, which would be impossible to do if I tried. But that is one of the downsides of fishing Bark Camp, is late in the fall after the leaves have started. The Forest Service Road 193, it's a gravel road that comes in. This is 30 minutes east of Corbin, and follow the gravel road to the Stocking Bridge right here, hop on the hiking trail, which is about 2.5 miles. The hiking trail, as you can see, goes all along Bark Camp Creek. There's several rogue campsites all along here that you can camp on, a couple of waterfalls, some beautiful rock houses, goes all along the creek. It then joins the Sheltowee here at this bridge. It's a new bridge they put in a couple years ago, and you can either go left or right here. The official trail goes to the left, and there's actually a shelter down here if you want to stay and camp. The creek itself it's a little bit narrower at the top, maybe 20 foot, as you can see in the picture on the left, and it gets braided a little bit. But then if you go down all the way to what's called the Cascades, and I'm going to go back just a minute. So if you go all the way down close to the confluence with the Cumberland, this is the area called the Cascades. The Cascades, it's closer to about 40 foot wide, some really deep pools, and this is where the holdovers are. Most of the local fishermen only stay either at the Stocking Bridge or maybe the first mile of stream, and that's where you see most of the campsites. But if you can get past that first mile, the fishing becomes exponentially better. Your chances of holdovers are much higher. And again, you've got these beautiful deep pools there. So in terms of recommendations, it's mostly bank fishing. It's a really difficult creek to wade because of the rocks in the deep pools and the pour overs. It's pretty easy to bank fish there. Any type of short rod is probably going to work in your favor, including something like a tenkara rod, because you're going to have to be doing a lot of roll cast with a lot of overhead branches. Nymphs are good, copper johns are good, midges are good. Anything in a plunge pool, you want to get that nymph down much lower. So either want to have a weighted nymph or put some split shot on it, something to get your nymph down closer to the bottom in those pools. Beautiful place to go in the spring. Lots of wonderful wildflowers there.
Now, Valerie, you said tenkara, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure I heard you right. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I heard that, Randy. I heard that.
I knew you were gonna. I was waiting for something to come up.
I'm assuming that there's a little bit of point of contention here between the two of you.
No, Valerie. I'm the president of the Northern Kentucky Tenkara Fishermen. We're a new club. I'll fill you in on it later. I'll send you an email.
Send me your card, huh?
Oh gosh.
I actually won a tenkara rod up at Columbus in the Buckeye Fly Fishers group. And I fished with that thing solid. I like to backpack in Montana, Colorado, places like that. And I tell you, for backpacking a rod in, those tenkaras are just so sweet. I have to say, it sold me. It sold me on them.
My heart is warm.
Propaganda. It's all propaganda.
Fake news.
Mike's just mad because he can't figure it out. It's okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, another place that I like to fish is Cane Creek. And one of the reasons I like to fish there is because I have never, ever seen anyone fish Cane Creek. Partly because it's a good 2-mile hike to get into fishing Cane Creek. It's a wonderful place to fish. I always have really good luck there, but you have to be committed. You have to really want to go in and fish. They stock it with both rainbows and browns. It's not quite stocked all through the summer months. That's because the stocking bridge, because they can't access the point that's on the map you see here to the right. The stocking bridge is about 6.5 miles upstream off of Rooks Road. This place is just, I think it's about a half an hour east of London, if that gives you an idea as to where it is. And they can't get in and stock it anywhere else except way up high. And that water gets relatively shallow and warm. So I think Fish and Wildlife just decide that they're not going to stock it through the summer, even though the water downstream, which is the picture you're looking at here with the bridge, stays nice and cool and relatively deep all summer long. So you have to come in off of Kentucky 192 and hike in down along Pounder Branch. Lots of beautiful camping, Pounder Branch, beautiful waterfalls. It's just gorgeous. You cross actually 2 different footbridges till you get right here, which is the picture on the left. And then what you want to do is pack in your waders, and you want to wade upstream up here, heading east from the stocking bridge. Because if you try to go downstream on this section right here, if you look at these gradient lines, the creek really gets steep and drops off. Now on the plus side, if you can hike down along the shoreline downstream of the footbridge, there's some really nice deep pools. Again, you're going to have a weighted nymph to get your fly down in there. But there's some really great fishing spots. And the other great fishing area is at the confluence with the Rockcastle River right here. And that is a great smallmouth bass fishing area. And the trout come down in this section here in the late fall. And it's really great fishing. However, one of the downsides is, again, access. is B Rock Campground has been closed since 2019. So they've got the road blocked off. So you can drive in Kentucky 192 and hike along the road. Oh, it's not very far. It seems like it's maybe a 20-minute walk. It looks further on this map than it actually is, but then you have to take hike a trail, maybe another half a mile to get to this confluence. But again, that's why the fishing is so good right now, because you don't see anybody down there because access is so difficult. But it really is a good fishing stream. So if you do want to head down that way, plan on camping really, because by the time you hike in, let me go back a little bit. The best place to camp is this spot right here. Go past Van Hook Falls and up on this peak. That's a really nice big camp spot right there. And then you're right there with perfect stream access. So bring waders. Once you get down to the creek, there's no trail. The rhododendron are so thick stream side that you really need to get in the water and wade. Go upstream. Do be careful with rainfall in the area. It usually takes a couple of days for the water to drop because it's a relatively big drainage. It doesn't really muddy up, but it does cloud up a little bit after a heavy rain. So usually you want at least a day or two to pass after a heavy rain. And again, just to make the wading a little bit easier. Okay, and then the very last creek I'm going to talk about is Rock Creek. I'm sure a lot of you know about Rock Creek. Some of you may have fished Rock Creek. Some of you have fished Rock Creek and have sworn that it's your favorite creek, and others have sworn that they'll never ever go back there again. And I have to say that I'm a little bit in both camps. This creek has me befuddled. There are times when this creek fishes beautifully all day long. It's just perfect. You know, look at those stocking levels, 15,000 rainbows a year, stocked not quite all the way through the summer. They don't do July and August, but a really nice long stocking season and a really nice long stretch of river. So even though it's really popular, you've got a lot of miles of fishing. But for some reason, there are some years that Rock Creek just doesn't seem to fish well. And I'm afraid that this year might be the year. I'm not really sure. I'll talk about that in just a minute. I've got a couple different maps I'm going to show you. This map here on the right is actually a beautiful map. They're posted all along Rock Creek, and it shows you a lot of the rocks in the trails in the area, roads in the area, and then of course the waterways. But the thing that really gets me laughing is whoever made this map has south going up and north going down, Tennessee up here on the northern side and Kentucky here. So I just bring that out as a little bit of humor, but also just to kind of give you a heads up that when you look at this map, when you get down there, because they're posted everywhere, don't think you're the only one going crazy when you look at this map trying to figure out where you are. So this other map I'm going to show you, and I hope you can see it on your screen, shows several different things. It shows you the downstream stocking area at Bell Farm Horse Camp. The pink stars are typically where Fish and Wildlife stock. This gravel road right here is the gravel road that you come in on. This is Southern McCreary County. You're going to come in on a long gravel road that goes for about 20 miles. All of these campsites here, including the Great Meadows Campground, are currently free. There's water in the summertime and very nice pit toilets. Other than that, and tent pads. Other than that, there's no electric or candy bar machines or anything like that. So your stocking points are going to be here at the bridge across the creek at Bell Farm Horse Camp. The other stocking is, there's a big rock on the left as you're driving up this road, or driving, I guess, south on the road. There's a big rock on your left, and that's where they stock right by the Hemlock Grove picnic area. Then there's another stocking area. I actually put the pink star on the wrong side of the creek. It's actually over here. There's 2 different loops to the Great Meadows Campground. At the Raccoon Loop, the Deer Loop is the top one, Raccoon Loop is the bottom one. There's a big hole right there that they pour fish into. And then they traditionally have been stocking fish way up here, far upstream, close to the Tennessee border. And by the way, Tennessee doesn't stock Rock Creek at all. It's just Kentucky does. But this year, I don't think they stocked that because there's a huge log jam going across the creek right there. Let me think, what else can I tell you about Rock Creek? Oh, let me give you just a little bit of background. Some of you might be interested in this because of your experience with Gunpowder Creek. Rock Creek, similar to a lot of other streams in our state, really suffered from acid mine drainage from an abandoned coal mine, which had sterilized the creek. So 20, 30 years ago, this was a dead creek. There was nothing in there at all. But now, if you turn over rocks, you're going to see crawdads, you'll see minnows, a few chums. I was down there last week, saw a bunch of caddisfly egg casings underneath the rocks. The stream has really come back, and Fish and Wildlife would not have that heavy stocking level of 18,000 plus rainbows if they didn't believe that this was a good, healthy stream. However, it's not as healthy as you would think it would be given its remoteness. There were other parts, again, let me say it again. I did fish this last week, came away empty-handed, did not get a thing. Went down with a girlfriend, she didn't get a thing. In fact, the second day, we didn't even fish. We were kind of discouraged. But I think if I was going to fish it again, I think I would do it a little bit differently. This section from Bell Farm all along here, if you can see, the creek is relatively far away from the road. And there's a lot of private land, so you can't get in there. This section right in here has become very braided due to high water. They had a lot of flooding down there this spring, which I think is part of the reason why it hasn't fished so well this year. And then when you're on this road and you're looking at the creek only looks like a ditch that you could hop across, but you actually have to walk in, maybe, I don't know, 30, 40 yards, not very far. And the deeper channels are out of sight from the road, whereas it used to be right along the road and you could see it and there were pull-offs everywhere. Now it's harder to see where those deeper channels are. So I think I would go back to this section where I could get the pull-off and then just walk across these short braided shallow streams and get to the deeper streams over here. So I think that's what I would focus on next time. The picnic area gets a lot of fishing pressure. Up here in the Great Meadows Campground area, that gets a lot of fishing pressure. So both of those areas are definitely fishable, but they also get fished out pretty easily when the stocking truck comes, unfortunately. And then the other area that I've always had really good luck in is this very far upstream section. And the best way to fish it, there's something called the Rock Creek Loop. You can kind of see this little bit of hiking trail that goes along the stream. It's hard to get into the creek because it has really steep pour overs. But if you get along this hiking trail and fish these deep plunge pools in this section right here, they always seem to hold fish. So I think I would concentrate more on this very far upstream side and then this braided stream part down here, and just kind of skip the whole area between the campground and the picnic area. I think it just gets too much fishing pressure. So in terms of recommendations, watch the stocking schedule. Everybody else down there seems to. Presentation is more important than choice of fly. I have seen that phrase more often the last couple of years. Whether you're fishing the Cumberland or fishing these small spring-fed creeks, sneaking up on the fish, not splashing, just really good, strong casting technique seems to be more important than the particular fly that you select. There's not a whole, I don't know. It seems like the holdovers are either way downstream or way upstream. I don't see very many midstream, but there are some in Rock Creek. If you get into those big, deeper pools, make sure you use a weighted nymph. Midges seem to work. We only saw one hatch last week, and we tried a couple different things without any luck. I don't know whether why we only saw one, but a lot of times you do see a really good mayfly hatch, particularly late in the evening. There is a lot of trees hanging over the edge, so a lot of times your terrestrials will work pretty well. Then the other thing that lately people seem to be catching a lot of fish on down there is anything with a bright green color that looks like an inchworm, whether it's a greeny meanie or a mop fly, anything with that kind of day glow fluorescent green seems to attract the fish. And if you don't catch any fish, you can always go hiking. There is a beautiful, beautiful trail with a beautiful arch, Buffalo Arch there. That's my girlfriend that I go fishing with. Last week, the mountain laurel was just getting ready to bloom. There were both yellow and pink lady slippers everywhere. It was just beautiful. If you want to spend the night, you're only 40 minutes away from the Tennessee border and the Pickett Memorial State Park. Pickett is a gem. It was built in the 1920s by the Civilian Conservation Corps. They have very hard to get, but relatively inexpensive, plainly anointed, but beautifully built cabins. You can see kind of in the craftsman style, almost something that maybe a monk at Gethsemane might want to stay in. Right now, the Tennessee Parks and Recreation Department, they are going in and doing some renovation, mostly copper guttering and downspouts, new shake roofs, new porches and things like that. Not so much work on the interior, but on the exterior. And they're doing a fabulous job. I'm sorry, what's that? Okay. Really, if you're going to stay, if you don't want to camp and you want to try to grab a cabin or a lodge room, you might want to check out Pickett. These other pictures are taken at Pickett State Park too. The one in the lower left it's a little hard to see, but it's a rock bridge. So rather than a rock arch, like I showed you in the previous picture that goes over land, a rock bridge is the same type of structure, but goes over water. So again, some beautiful hiking areas, also really nice fishing area right there in the park. Whoops, I guess I jumped ahead of myself too much. And then finally, I just wanted to wrap up a little bit with just some odds and ends, and I didn't quite know where to put this in my program. But things I just wanted to bring to your attention that's going on here in Kentucky. First off, for some reason this spring, there were lots of typos and omissions in the printed and online stocking schedule. And when I went back, some of those things have been corrected. Some of them still hadn't been, but just kind of keep that in mind that a lot of the things that you see online aren't quite accurate. Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife has a new fish map. So I created a tiny URL just to make it a little bit easier to find if you just go to tiny URL KY Fish. This fish map is a map of the state of Kentucky with a bunch of hot links all over it. And so geographically, you can kind of look at fishing areas within a particular part of the state. You click on the hot link and it tells you the name of the place, what the stocking levels are, and some basic information about the fishing in that particular waterway. Because we are shifting more trout to the Fishing in the Neighborhood program, they are no longer stocking at Laurel Lake. Laurel Lake used to get something like 40,000 rainbow trout, a huge number. They've quit stocking there. They've quit stocking at Lick Creek and Goose Creek. I don't know if anybody's tried to get into Swift Camp Creek, but the road is closed. With the heavy spring rains that we had this spring, the road has on both sides, both lanes going north and south of the road is giving way. We went in and backpacked fish in, I don't know, maybe a month ago to Swift Camp Creek, and they wouldn't let us drive in. We had to come in a different way and then hike the fish in. So on one hand, you can't drive in to get to Swift Camp Creek like you used to, but on the other hand, not too many people are fishing Swift Camp Creek right now. So you might want to keep that on your radar. They've also had a brook trout experiment going on down at Dog Fork at Red River Gorge. They backpacked fish in twice, and for some reason the fish aren't taking, and they don't know whether they got a bad batch of fish or there's the timing of the rains. They have all these different theories, but they really don't know what it is. So they did stock one more time this spring, and if the fish don't take, then they may not stock again. So we're just left with wild brook trout down there. And lastly, thanks for having me. I hope I haven't run over too long. I have no idea what time it is, but I'd be happy to entertain any questions or comments if people have anything else that they'd like to share.
I have a question about down near Pickett State Park. Did you ever fish in the Tennessee side near Leatherwood Ford or that area?
I have, but not for trout. I have floated that section. I've kayaked above Leatherwood Ford and I've canoed below Leatherwood Ford. The fishing below Leatherwood Ford is actually pretty good, but you really need to have a canoe or a kayak or something to get down in there.
Yeah. We used to go down there in the winter and backpack, but it was always too cold to fish down there. And I was curious.
Thank
you.
Yeah, not too many people fish it because you do need to have some type of watercraft, but the fishing's quite good.
Okay, thanks. It's a gorgeous area.
Yes, it is.
Valerie, you could stop sharing your screen now. If you'd like. It should be up towards the top, maybe stop sharing, should say. You don't have to, but.
Share, stop share.
Yeah, that way everybody's pictures are. And then, yeah. You just a note, your observations about Jennings Creek were correct. Their Western Kentucky University did an extensive water quality study, and that creek is contaminated. I mean, it's turbidity, fluoride, chloride, lead and arsenic, nitrates, phosphates, biological oxygen demand, organic contaminants, you name it, it's got it, and it's contaminated.
So what? I mean, the stocking. Oh, good, I did it. The stocking levels continue to remain really strong down there, and it's mostly just locals, that are fishing. Is it a political decision to stock that?
I have no idea. I just have seen I looked up again the study that Western Kentucky University did out of their Center for Human Geo-Environmental Studies, and it's really well done. Why everything isn't dead in that stream, I have no idea, but it should be.
Yeah, it's even the area around the stocking site, it's just been trashed, and it's just not been cared for. And it's really difficult, even though it's relatively long waterway, there's really no other access point, midpoint or further downstream. So basically everybody has to go to the same point at that stocking bridge. I don't know, maybe they need to get some mitigation money down there too. I don't know. Maybe they could do a raffle.
There you go.
Yeah.
Valerie, at the end of your talk, you said, mentioned wild brook trout. Was that on the Tennessee side or the Kentucky side? It's my understanding there are no wild brook trout in Kentucky. Is that, anyway, we just wondered about that.
Well, apparently there are four streams that they think we still have wild brook trout that are reproducing. Although even that is a little bit suspect. The one down on the Tennessee border, Shalila, I'm not sure how you say it, creek, that seems to be the best bet in terms of trout that are actually reproducing. The Brookies and Dog Fork, they did a fish kill there, just the shocking, not a fish kill, shock them. And they didn't find any. They couldn't even find the ones that they had just stocked. So that's a little bit, I think, confusing for Fish and Wildlife. The ones at Parched Corn, they actually had some evidence of some reproduction there back in the 70s, I think. Some of you may know better than I, but I don't know. They're, you know, you hear stories and people occasionally will catch a brook trout down in there, but it's very few and far between.
But in each case, they are, even if they're reproducing, they're stocked, right? I mean, my understanding from Fish and Wildlife is there are no native brook trout and no evidence that there ever were in the state.
Well, none of them are native. All of them would have been stocked at one point in time. In fact, Ron Ellis can probably tell you some pretty interesting stories about a guy was he from Louisville, Ron, who brought a cooler of trout and would bring them over to the gorge and
yeah, I think you can see that story. Fish and Wildlife did a feature piece on it in Kentucky Afield. And he was apparently bringing them back from someplace in Pennsylvania that he was somewhat home ground to him. And as he would go back, he would bring those fish back with him and quietly release them into streams that, unbeknownst to anyone in Fish and Wildlife, of course.
Mm-hmm. So you are correct, Mark, in that they're not native to Kentucky, but we have had some natural reproduction. So we think everything that we have left in these four streams were just, you know, the progeny of past stockings, you know, from years ago.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thanks for that. I was interested in that as well. Nice question, Mark. That's exactly what I wrote down when you said Dog Fork about wild brookies. Now, okay.
Ron and I will on our way to Dog Fork tomorrow morning.
Right. I'm going to talk to Valerie tomorrow.
Yeah, and the hike into Dog Fork, oh my gosh, what is it like? I think it's 3.5 miles. Fish and Wildlife has cut a new trail to get down there. There was a rogue trail that they've got flagged. It's either that or come in off of the Swift Camp Creek Trail through Rock Bridge, and that way is like 5 miles one way. So you've got a hike in 3.5 miles, and then most of the fish are way upstream. So then you've got to wade in the stream for a couple of miles before you can actually start fishing. So obviously not too many people do that. I went down there last fall right after they'd stocked and did not see a fish, did not catch a fish. Nothing. And then they went and shocked it the following week and there were no fish. So I don't know. Yeah. It's a romantic idea. It's always nice to think about catching a wild brook trout.
Would be lovely.
It would be. Yeah.
Okay, it says, it looks like Bill Renner drew another ticket from tonight. Don Charance is going with him on the trip. So
Oh.
Don, you get to go on the trip with Mike.
Yeah, I called Bill and asked him to pull another ticket so I could get a second.
All right. Well, there
Nice
you go.
idea, Mike.
Yeah, way to go.
Great idea.
Very nice idea.
Yeah, good.
So I don't know, Valerie, if you've seen it where we drew the number for our spring raffle, our special raffle.
Uh-huh.
And Mike Arnold won the trip. And it was a trip for two, with lodging and I think guide service with Rob Fightmaster. And so Mike put it in so that another person could go on the trip with him.
Oh, nice.
So now there's two of them. So there's two winners. So that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Excellent.
All right.
Valerie, Wayne and I fished Trammel Creek and Casey Creek. We made a 3-day trip out of it during the week. And it's some of the best fishing I've ever done. I mean, it was just, we saw nobody. There were fish everywhere. I mean, you could see them. And absolutely beautiful streams. And I think we went in December or November, so it was chilly but not frigid cold, but just a great trip.
I think you told me with Casey you went all the way down to the downstream side.
We did.
And how did you fish Trammel?
Well, we fished the church access point.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also went to the VPA. Now I understand that VPA may not be available any longer. Someone told me that. But there's another, access point, which from the road doesn't look very attractive. But boy, you get into the water and it's just absolutely spectacular.
Mm. Mm. So were they stalkers or holdovers? What were you finding?
Well, some of the fish were big fish. I mean, you're talking 15, 18 inch. So they gotta be holdovers. I mean, I think.
Well, that the last couple years, the fish that we've been backpacking in, they used to put in 8 to 10 inch stalkers a lot. Well, now they're putting in 8 to 12. So if they put in a 12-inch stalker in the spring, you're going to get a 15 or 16 inch fish easily by late fall.
Yeah, good point. So the answer to your question is I don't really know, but we were catching some pretty good sized fish.
That's what Joe says.
Yeah. And you didn't see anybody then?
Oh no.
No, there's nobody around. Again, we were there during the week, we did that intentionally.
Uh-huh.
But
My nickel was drawn tonight for the spring raffle. I had Bill draw, and who was to take it? That's you, from Mike Arnold.
What was that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Was that Don?
That was Don. That
Hey,
was me.
hi,
I
Don.
just saw your email, Mike.
Congrats, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That'll be an awesome trip.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Does anybody have anything else for Valerie?
Yeah, I do. This is Tim.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want, this has been an absolutely fantastic presentation, and it's not too far from home. And I was just wondering, is this, I kind of caught this at the tail and jumped in at not at the introduction, but does she have a book, or is this all written down someplace, or?
This is
There is a
recorded.
book.
Huh?
There is a book.
Good segue.
There's a variety of ways you can purchase the book. I also
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for you, Valerie.
Any public library that approaches me, I will give free copies to. And I always try to make that point. I probably forgot to say it this time. So that's another option. Your libraries have it. Then we've got some kind of, Tim and I struck a deal of trying to do like some kind of fundraiser or
Right.
something.
So Tim, first of all, this is being recorded and it will be posted on our website.
Okay.
In the next few days, and I'll let everybody know when it is.
Okay.
Second, if you go to our homepage on the website,
okay,
there's a link. You just scroll down a little bit, and there's a link to purchase the book. And
what's the name of the book? I'm
Huh?
sorry. What's the name of the book?
Fly Fishing Kentucky.
Okay.
Your Guide to Tackle Techniques and the Best Trout Waters in the State. And it's the second edition, and it's hot off the press. And you know, the price that Valerie has given us is really fantastic. So
well, that doesn't matter. It's just that you've done a fantastic job, Valerie. You've inspired me. So I'd like to purchase that book. I just didn't know where to get it or what the title was.
And it will be personally signed by the author.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah, to Tim. Seriously.
That'd be great. That would be great. So
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Actually, if you want me to sign it, the book comes discounted.
Okay.
Thanks, Ron.
Good one.
I can see Ron's face kind of.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. It's been a fantastic presentation.
Yeah, and it's a great book. I could testify.
It is a great book.
Oh.
Okay. I look forward to getting it. So.
Well, thank you. My co-author is no longer with us, but I had I couldn't have done it without him. Absolutely.
And he was a great guy. I mean, he spoke to the club as well and was just fabulous. So
yes,
we all miss him.
Yeah, he was a wonderful guy. I reached out and spoke with him several times. Met him once or twice, I think, in Lexington, but he was a wonderful guy, and we miss him.
And he thought a lot of all of you too. He really did.
Well, one thing, he's catching more fish than we'll ever catch now.
That is true.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask all of you a quick question. What do you think about strike indicators?
I use them.
I hate them.
I know my catch rate doubled when I started using them.
Yeah, I hate them.
Your catch rate doubled when you start putting the fly in the water.
All right, right.
But I never used strike indicators till I actually was fishing with Mike Arnold on an Nantahala that I started using indicators. And I have to admit, my strike and catch rate went way up, but I don't like them for bluegill.
Yeah, but his indicator was a kernel of corn.
Well, so what? I got it from you. And
You used to put a dab of cheese on the top.
well, I do have a squeeze on putty type indicator that I use, and I got it from Paul Stegman, and it was garlic cheese. And that works real well.
Yeah.
But seriously, some people chime in. But myself, I do use them, but I really don't like to use them. It's just something about it that offends me.
I like using either a popper, a small popper, or a dry fly as an indicator.
Yeah, Ed Haig showed me how to use them 20 some odd years ago, fishing with him after he moved to North Carolina or to Tennessee, wherever. And I started using them, but it makes me feel kind of like I'm bobber fishing.
Well, that's true.
I make my own Tenkara lines. Did you hear what I said? I said Tenkara. I make my own Tenkara lines out of the bright yellow spider wire, and it's a great. It's like it's a 13 to 20 foot long strike indicator. It works perfectly.
Did you say Tenkara?
He did.
Dak, I said Tenkara.
Oh, okay.
I'll show you my
Good.
tattoo the next time I see you.
Translation is cane pole.
AKA crappie.
He really did get a tattoo.
I
Did he really?
Yeah.
I'm with Tim on the indicator thing. I use them under certain situations, but I'd much rather be, just deadlining or fishing, without one. So I think getting down to the bottom is key for me.
Here, here.
Okay. So what about the cider lines?
Never seen them.
I've tried them, and I quickly abandoned them. I quite honestly, I didn't, I couldn't learn to use them as effectively as, if I'm going to use a strike indicator, one of the other types.
The cider lines, they're just, my old eyes can't see it. I'm sorry. Physically, I cannot see the difference in there. And
I'll send you a 13-foot long cider line for your Tenkara rod.
Thanks.
However,
talking to Valerie.
Randy, I'll take one for my Tenkara. Thank you.
Yeah.
I ran into a guy on Hatchery Creek, was a young guy, and he was hauling in fish, and he was using a cider line, and he tried to teach me how to use it, and I was dumb, too dumb to do it. But he was hauling in fish like nobody I've ever seen using cider line.
What was his fly, Tim? Do you remember?
I don't. It was a nymph, and he used a technique called slap casting. So
I do that.
He would, but literally
learn that from Kilmer, huh?
He would let the fly, get a good drift, and then the way he would cast was he'd slap it back upstream so the nymph would get down very quickly, and then the fish would hit further downstream of where his nymph landed because he didn't scare them by casting upstream. But he called it a slap cast. Wham! It's pretty interesting.
We call that the Kilmer.
Is that the Kilmer? I can't. Mike Arnold taught me to cast. I can't say I do a slap cast. It would be terribly discredited to him. So
You watch cast.
I turn that line over, Mike.
Except when you're throwing the big bass bugs. That's you want
Right.
to slap down and ring the dinner bell.
Yeah.
It works for that too.
Or cicadas.
Hey, it was 17 years ago. Josh Lillard and I were at Brooksville with Dave and Chris Bruce, and inside of 4 hours, we boated 120 carp.
Oh my word.
Oh, using a cicada?
Cicada patterns.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
We had to go to 10-pound test tippet to keep from breaking off.
Did you eat all? Did you eat all them fish?
Somebody did.
And Mike, we had a guy, the last time we had a hatch, and he was saving the wings off the cicadas and storing them. He was going to use them to tie flies. Do you remember who that was?
Roger. Oh, come on. His first name was Roger, a little old guy from Buff.
Yeah.
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 He coated them with something, and then he
tied them on his actual flies.
Yeah.
He did. I wanted to say he had a thinned out head cement because lacquer broke on him.
Yeah. He would tie those things onto his fly. He was collecting all of the ones he could get.
Oh yeah.
Wolfangle. Roger Wolfangle.
Yeah, Wolfangle.
Yeah. He's no longer with us.
I've been trying to remember that name ever since they started talking about the bugs coming out again.
Oh my goodness. That's gross.
Good to see you,
All right.
Paul.
Yeah,
Does
thanks, Mike.
anybody have anything else to add? Valerie, thank you so much for everything. It was a great meeting. We appreciate it.
Well,
We
thank
sure do.
you. I look forward to coming back up to Gunpowder Creek again.
Valerie, that
Sounds
was
like
a
a
great
plan.
presentation. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that was great.
Very
I
nice.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
It's always great seeing a bunch of friendly faces, and it's just, it's not quite as good as being all together, but
Soon.
We're hoping soon. We're hoping soon.
It was excellent. Valerie, thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome.
great.
Good to see everybody, and you all take care, and I hope to see you out on the water then.
Yes.
All right,
Alrighty.
sounds good.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Tim.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Randy,
Tim.
great job. And Bill, great job.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody. Thanks, Randy and Bill.
And
Thanks,
thanks,
Sheila.
Have a good night.
Thank you,
Have a good
Sheila.
night,
Thanks,
everyone.
Tim. Thanks, Tim.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
thanks,
Sheila.
everybody. Take care.
Thanks, Ron.
I got the book, Ron.
All right. How do you
Save
you
me.
like
I need
it?
to get one too,
I haven't
Tim.
read it yet.
Yeah, I've been looking for
But
the link.
I got it.
haven't seen it.
I'm going to get mine tomorrow.
All right.
Mine's on order.
If somebody would, do you know where the link shows up on the web page?
Yeah, it's right on the home page here, Paul. I'm gonna, I'll send, I'm
Can you
gonna
send me a email or something?
Yeah,
Send you a link to it.
yeah, I can send you a link right now, to
That'd be great.
everybody, right there. Did you see it? Go to the chat.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah, and if you need any help or anything, just give me a holler.
Okay.
Either, email, text, call me, whatever.
All right.
Great. It's good to see
All
you,
right.
Paul. And,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
see y'all.
All right.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.